MLB The Show 25 is right around the corner, and no doubt we've got tons of big new legends to look forward to. What historic players do you want to see in MLB 25? Let me know in the comment section down below, and while you're there, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, because MLB The Show 25 is going to be a big year. When it comes to pure hitting, I'm not sure there's ever been anybody better than Barry Lamar Bonds with or without the baseball bat. His career stats are juiced to a level we're unlikely to see ever topped. And thinking of him in MLB The Show context, how could you get much better? During different parts of his career, he was one of the best base runners in baseball. He won a ton of Gold Gloves. We know about his power. Well, he was also a great contact hitter. Barry Bonds could do it all, and I think that would make for about the most unstoppable card in MLB The Show history. Again, I'm not entirely sure if it's at all possible that we get Barry Bonds. He was reluctant to appear in games even when he was actually playing due to his withdrawal of the MLB Players Association, but there's always a chance, and MLB The Show has definitely shown a lot more friendliness towards those with steroid allegations. Another guy that I'd love to see, he was in the same Hall of Fame ballot race as Bonds, that's Roger Clemens, who I think would be kind of vital towards hopefully the mission of expanding captain eligibility. Clemens, of course, was initially Boston Red Sox, but by the end of things, he'd pitch for Boston, Toronto, New York, and Houston. SDS has talked about in the past, they want to get to the point where, like Madden Ultimate Team, if a player had ever played for any other team, they will fit that eligibility on captains. So you don't have to have a Clemens card individually for all four of those teams. If it was a Boston Red Sox Clemens, he could still get eligibility boost for the Yankees, Blue Jays, and Astros. And this is another guy who would be great to have in the game. Few pitchers ever have been as good as the Rocket. A 7-time Cy Young winner who pitched until his age 44 season, racking up 4,600 strikeouts along the way. A guy that I've really missed in MLB The Show ever since he retired in 2019, unless was taken out of MLB The Show, is Ichiro Suzuki, one of my favorite players of all time, and a guy who just got put into the Hall of Fame. Now, there's been some slight connection in the past of MLB seeming to look a little bit more closely on guys who were recently inducted. Last year, we got Adrian Beltre a couple months announced after he was headed to Cooperstown. Maybe we could see the same thing for Ichiro. His cards, you guys probably remember if you've played for a couple of years by now, were fantastic.
Now here's the ball.
Ichiro! Let's go! Ichiro Suzuki!
Ichiro, of course, was not one of those big power hitters within the game, but on his best cards, he got enough pop where he could definitely hit some home runs, and he was a base hit machine. I mean, max speed, max stealing, great contact, especially with how the game plays now, Ichiro would be one of the best in the game. An outstanding defender to boot, tons of range in the outfield with maybe one of the most electrifying arms within baseball history. Ichiro, I would love to see come back into MLB The Show. Speaking of some players that used to be in MLB The Show, I think it's by time that we try and get Ted Williams back into the game. I mean, one of the most famous baseball players of all time, probably a top 3-ish, 2-1 hitter of all time. Teddy Ballgame was outstanding within MLB The Show, and trying to construct a Red Sox theme team really feels out of place without probably their best player in their franchise history. Ted Williams was one of those guys within MLB The Show that pretty much got everything offensively. He'd have maxed out contact and power and vision and discipline. He was an absolute menace at the plate and a nightmare to try and pitch to. Another lefty that's been gone from the show for a handful of years now is Ty Cobb. Again, talk about the Tigers and their theme team. how can you build an all-time Detroit Tigers lineup without Ty Cobb? In the show, he stacked up kind of closely to a guy like Ichiro. Ton of contact, a base hit machine that did damage on the base path, ton of range in the outfield, and enough power to get some balls into the outfield seats. Ty Cobb was a fan favorite when he was in MLB The Show. Again, speaking to him and Ted, I know that MO has kind of been getting 90s and 2000 stars into the game, a little bit more of the time period. But I think video games do a great job of teaching history. You see that with the Negro League storylines that they've been putting into place. Having guys like Ted Williams and Ty Cobb is crucial to telling the story of Major League Baseball. But I definitely would like to see more players that I was personally alive to see. Tim Lincecum had a cup of coffee within the Diamond Dynasty era. I believe his last card was in MLB The Show 17, and the freak was exactly that when you used his cards. He was so good, so dominant. I can only begin to imagine how good a Lincecum card could be with the 125 cap on his attributes. Just think, a no-hitter Tim Lincecum on the mound, that would be disgusting. I really want to see big-time Timmy Jim back in MLB The Show. I mean, as it sits right now, we're kind of losing all the guys from that Giants dynasty in the early part of the 2010s. We gotta start reconstructing that team. We mentioned a couple steroid guys in Bonds and Clemens. I think A-Rod is another clear choice that a lot of people would love to see come back into MLB The Show. Throughout Diamond Dynasty, I think he really only had the 1 year, which was 2016, but he had 3 99 overall cards in an era of DD where that was pretty unusual. He had his 99 with the Seattle Mariners, which was probably the best card in the game that year, his 99 with his time in Texas, and then finally a collection reward with the New York Yankees. And I think A-Rod, again, a guy would have good captain eligibility across the board, 3 different squads, but also just the differences that you could make on an A-Rod card. You've got his better speed and defense days playing shortstop with the Mariners, and then his seemingly artificially increased power with his time in Texas and New York. I think Alex Rodriguez is a guy that is probably more likely than a Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens to see in MLB The Show, and definitely one that I think would excite tons of people. I watched the new documentary on Netflix detailing the Red Sox comeback in 2004, and almost half the time all I could think of is how cool would it be if Nomar Garciaparra was in MLB The Show. Nomar, to me, is really one of the biggest what-if stories in baseball. What if he could stay healthy? Throughout his time in Boston, Nomar Garciaparra seemed like a slam dunk Hall of Famer. Nomar, much like A-Rod, helped usher in an era of shortstops that broke the mold. Around that time, it wasn't often where you saw shortstops hit like Nomar Garciaparra could hit. Back-to-back 1,000 OPS campaigns where he won the batting title. If you want to read into anything, Nomar Garciaparra recently signed a deal with Backyard Sports to be back within their game. Maybe there's a chance that Nomar is also signing a deal with MLB The Show. Since he got hired at Colorado and his name has been so often in the media, all the time on stream I hear people saying, "We need Deion. Get Deion in MLB The Show." And I couldn't agree more. Of course, we all know how good Deion was on the gridiron, but I think if he focused on baseball, he could have been a dominant force. But absolutely, he would be one of the most fun cards to use in MLB The Show. And if you're going to bring in Deion, you might as well bring in Bo. Bo Jackson legitimately was a star in baseball. An all-star in 1989, Bo had tons of raw power. The strength and speed combination would be electric within the game. I'm not entirely sure if either of them would get to the 99 threshold, but even still, think of a more early game card of those two. It could be a ton of fun. So those are some new legends that I would really like to see come into the new game. On average, I would say we've been getting about 20 new legends into new MLB The Show titles, and unfortunately, the fact of the matter is we're probably going to lose a handful of legends as well. That has been the tough part with MLB The Show compared to other Ultimate Team style games where they just don't get rights back very quick. Like Albert Pujols retires and he's out of the game the next year. Miguel Cabrera, the same thing. So this year, guys like Joey Votto, I don't have high hopes that he'll be in the game. I definitely think the lackluster legend cast within MLB The Show has definitely caused some people to get a little bit more bored of the game, seeing the same cards released over and over again. It is definitely kind of hard to get excited over seeing the same names every given team affinity. The honest truth is there's so many guys that we're missing out on. I talked about some ones today that I think would be very important. That's not even scratching the surface. You could go down every team. Even the Yankees, who have the most loaded legend cast, there's no Joe DiMaggio, there's no Yogi Berra. They lost Reggie Jackson. There's so many guys that they're missing, and hopefully one day we really see Estes ramp up their acquisition of receiving legend likeness. But we'll see. Again, in the comments section, let me know what new legends you want to see in MLB The Show 25, and get ready, because we're very close to the official cover reveal and announcement of the brand new game. Thank you guys for watching this one.